Ultimate Spider-Man #1, probably the most anticipated release of the year that we know about so far. Jonathan Hickman wrote it. Marco Checchetto drew it. Colors by Matthew Wilson. Letters by Corey Pettit. So a lot of people were down on this book when it was announced. There was not that much hype. Hickman doesn't fit Spider-Man. Checchetto doesn't fit Spider-Man. What is this going to be? This is weird. We don't want it. That was a lot of the reaction.
Can I tell you what this was?
Go ahead.
It's pick of the week, baby.
Mine too.
Come on, Cale.
I haven't decided what my pick of the week is yet.
All right, leave it alone.
Bro, you're in the book, Cale. You can't make this. It's your book.
I wish, God, that Chichetto hair, man.
You can do it.
I fought my whole life for hair that good.
This is my pick of the week too. So
yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe by the end of this conversation, Cale will make it universal.
That's the thing. I didn't even. If you're on our Discord and you're in the Marvel comic spoiler, that thread is just spoiler tag. It's just black. You might as well not even be looking at a screen. It's just black all the way down. And I was like, I need to discuss this first.
Which, guys, it's the spoiler channel. You could just talk.
No. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah, you guys are doing it right. So this is a reimagining of Spider-Man in a way that really I don't think we've ever seen before. So check it out. It's Peter Parker as a dad without powers. No powers. And Aunt May's not here. He has children that don't have powers. I can't think of a single solitary time I've ever seen that. A Peter Parker dad with children that don't have powers.
I think used to great effect. It helps to build immediate sympathy for him. One, because we're so used to seeing Aunt May be in the picture, and like her not being there, it's like an immediate like punch in the gut. Like, okay, she's gone. He's been affected, obviously. And the way it ties into the event that happens in the little blurb prior, I thought was just really effective writing.
Yeah, it's like every scene to start with has something in it that would be a surprise if all you did was open this comic book, right? Like if you didn't go on social media, if you didn't look at anything, everything here is a surprise to you. You turn the page and, the first thing you see is an adult Peter Parker, right? Which is immediately shocking. The Ultimate Spider-Man name gives you the thought of a young kid, young Spider-Man. That's what it always was. And the first page shows you something different. Then you see the kids. Then you get to the Bugle.
Good scene.
So for me, like I don't have that much baggage for Ultimate Spider-Man because I never really read it outside of like Miles showing up, and like right before that is when I started. I think there was like a relaunch that I started around. So I wasn't that shocked to see adult Peter.
Well, of course not. You know what it is, but I'm saying like if you open the page and you didn't know what this was going to be.
I guess, yeah. That being said, the content of it is very good. This doesn't even feel like Peter Parker. And I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. It's just that this kind of Peter is not something we've ever gotten before. I know like the hype about this was, oh, this is going to be like Peter B. Parker from the Spider-Verse movies, essentially. But it's not even that. Like, my dude is depressed. There's something missing from this dude's life. So it's still classic, down on his luck Peter Parker, but it's definitely a new spin I've never seen about it, and it hooked me pretty instantaneously.
It's emotional. And I think Hickman's writing was one of the things you mentioned at the top, Sean, was going to be questionable. Man, he handled it perfectly. I think he delivered a heartfelt character, one with depth, one that you immediately sympathize with, and I thought I got immediately immersed into the world. Like there was no aspect of this book that pulled me away for a second. I was in it from page 1 to the last page.
So I want to say before we delve deeper that this is a spoiler show. So if you don't want to hear what I'm about to say, then you should probably skip ahead if you're listening later on, or if you're live, take your headphones off for a few. Because there's just some stuff here we can't review the book without saying. So Marco's right. This is a very emotional comic book. And, as we said earlier, lots of surprises. And when you get to the Daily Bugle, you really get smacked in the face with a big shock that Hickman delivers expertly. And he uses our knowledge of Spider-Man to deliver on this big surprise. And it's typical stuff. It's Peter walking into the Bugle.
Yeah.
Jameson is yelling his name, Parker, and we know what that means. And he sees Peter and he says, "Oh, hey, Peter." And you're like, well, wait a moment. And then he yells Parker again. And you turn the page and he's yelling at Ben Parker.
So good. So good.
Uncle Ben is alive.
And it happens relatively early on in the book.
It's the second scene.
So a big shock like that early on kind of threw me off in terms of the way books are nowadays.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good, clever twist.
And it was something that they managed to keep from us. Like it didn't spoil. We saw Aunt May had died. And I think we all, at least here, mutually assumed that means both of his aunt and uncle are gone.
Yep.
But that wasn't the case. And it was nice to be surprised by something you see in a comic book anymore.
Yeah. I feel like the scenes where you see J. Jonah Jameson is like he's almost paternal, and that's such a flip on his character as well. And that took me out for a second. It didn't take me out, sorry, but it just kind of inverted my expectation, because I'm like, oh, it's gonna be the same guy, right? But no, he's grown alongside him. This is a different person. Again, that was also used to really good effect. We know what Jameson's like, but that's not him. He's caring, and that almost felt uncanny, but it plays into the story
for sure.
And back to the Uncle Ben stuff, but also as an extension to what Marco was saying, is Ben is active here. Like he's making moves, he's doing stuff. He's good for something that's not dying.
Right. And the other thing about that is most of the time when we have seen Uncle Ben, it's obviously in Peter's past since he's dead. But whenever he's used as like a ghost or an alternate version, it's always essentially the same Uncle Ben that we saw when Peter, when he died.
Yep.
This is an Uncle Ben who never died. So he's an actual character. And we're getting to see what he's really like. We've never really seen his relationship with Peter as an adult. And I'm actually fascinated by it. This is like, my uncle is like my dad in life. So this is a relationship dynamic I've never really seen in comic books before. And it adds something to Peter, I think.
Yeah, the closest we've gotten to Peter having a paternal figure is Norman, who's also not in this.
Right.
Yeah.
So this kind of changes things a lot. And then we also get the knowledge that Peter was adopted by May and Ben when he was 15. So he's already a teenager at this point. When I feel like most stories, he was adopted pretty early on as a kid.
Yeah.
Like he grew up. So there is a bit that I felt in this where like Ben didn't know what to do when he first got Peter, and they've learned since then. And Peter doesn't call him Dad or Uncle Ben. He calls him Ben directly. So there is, it is interesting to see that there, because that leads me to believe that there's more of a respect thing, and almost maybe more of a mentorship kind of relationship. But honestly, the thing that surprised me most about this book was how straightforward it was. Like a Hickman #1, we've read Gods, we've read his X-Men stuff. I've read Manhattan Projects. Like this is much more grounded than his most recent work. Like the real heady stuff happened in Ultimate Universe, and this feels like, oh, this is just going to be a straightforward Spider-Man story. Yeah, how he gets his powers is a little weird, but um, the actual meat of the story is pretty straightforward, and I was really refreshing from a Hickman book.
Yeah, I think Hickman proved once again, although I'm not really sure why he has to keep proving this, but he proved once again that, he can do anything he wants to do. You know, people associate him purely with big sci-fi, massive stories, but he's a great storyteller, and he showed that here. His world building talent is all over this comic book. There just aren't future people in it. Um, it's everywhere. Just the inclusion of like Daredevil, right, as the father, father,
The priest.
father,
Murdoch,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Father Murdoch, like just that, or what's going on with Harry, and oh wow, Harry's reaction to this is kind of weird. What's up with that? There's so many layers here that we know are going to be played with.
And the other thing too is like I can't tell if it's Harry putting on a front or whatever, but there is a thing where he seems actually angry because he had a good relationship with Norman. Where main
Yeah.
comics, I feel like Norman, it was always kind of a strained relationship, a tough relationship. He talked about like playing catch with Norman. Like I don't see that
I
happening in 616 Norman.
I got the impression though that was a one-time thing.
He was pulling a Cody Rhodes.
There's
I
something
don't know what that
off.
means.
Yeah. There's something off in their relationship, and even both Peter and MJ question the kind of man that Norman was and whether Harry's reaction was genuine.
That's right. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
And MJ was, I thought, a really, really good just character to bounce off. Like we don't get too much, but I think it works to show how strong the individual characters are and the relationships that they formed in this alternate timeline or this alternate world, I guess. That all the characters are tight knit, and um, that Hickman again just does really good work with the characters that he can handle, and played really really well.
And the MJ Peter dynamic feels real.
Oh,
Like I don't know the last time I saw two characters in a relationship in Big Two comics that just have that like post work day catch up
yeah.
that is just so realistic when it comes to like adult relationships.
I like too of just the, hey, I have to tell you something, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool, yeah, we're gonna talk, okay.
And implicit
Well,
trust, like I'll talk to you later, but I will talk to you. Like that's fine. We'll talk. You know.
yeah.
Can we talk about the art? Because holy shit.
One thing
Talk about MJ. Whoa.
Well,
Absolutely.
one thing I specifically noted was a lot of times when you have plain backgrounds or monotone backgrounds, in this case, you just have a singular color or it's just black in the back. A lot of the shadows in this, or even in those scenes where it's just a panel, a single character in the foreground, and then you have a single color in the back, it's like these scratches. It's textured. It provides a bit of depth and layering, and Chicharro does a great job doing that because it keeps a dynamicism in the book where sometimes if it was just flat, I would I'd fall asleep on it. It doesn't pop. It doesn't provide flow and movement, even though it's technically just black in the background with a few different accents of like hatching.
Yeah, the hatching jumped out to me in the bar scene because like
Yeah.
it's an accurate bar scene because you just have a wall behind you, but
Yep.
there's depth to it because of the hatching that adds like shadows and it feels like they're in a physical spot rather than
Mm-hmm.
oh I need to fill up the space here. Yeah.
This is a phenomenal looking comic book. It's crazy good. Like, oh my god. I can't wait to see what the action's going to look like. There is really no action here to speak of. Um but if all Chiquetto had to do was draw people talking, I'd be into that. The scene between Ben and Jameson at the bar just drinking, awesome. Just this little moment where they're kind of like laughing together, and Jameson's wiping his eye, the tears out of his eyes. It's just great to look at.
Do we even know what Uncle Ben did for work?
Worked at the Bugle. What do you mean?
But like his position, I guess.
Like in our main universe before he died. Like I don't know if I know. I just think it's a good idea to put him in the Bugle because it tempers Jonah. It makes Peter more involved as well. Like it's a weird choice, but I was like, oh, okay, that actually works a lot story wise.
Back to the art. What do you think of the Green Goblin design?
It's futuristic. It's modern. Like it's fine, especially for an Ultimate book. Better than an actual goblin, I think.
I'm a little confused as to why it has the Osborne Industries logo on it. Like, all right, you're not really hiding there if that's the case. But I'm fine with it, even though it feels like James Franco New Goblin.
Yeah, it didn't stand out.
I'm not really a fan of it. I think it's too basic. I'm thinking this is probably not whatever the final design is. I'm thinking this is like a first go type thing. But we also don't know, like, is this person even like, we associate Green Goblin with a nutty Osborn, like, is this that, or is this a different thing?
Sure.
I kind of wanted him to be Jameson.
Oh shit.
I turned that page and I went, oh, Jameson. But he would have been in the bar, so the timeline there doesn't necessarily match up.
And that was Bullseye with Kingpin, right? Like that was like an ultimate version of Bullseye.
Don't know.
Oh, the eye patch dude?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because he had like a bullseye scar behind the eye patch, it looked like. Almost like the movie Bullseye's forehead scar.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Or Deadshot.
I don't know why, but they look like zombies to me. Like in this panel right here, the way they're colored, they just look dead.
A little pale.
This needs a nap.
Yeah. He looks like Uncle Fester. Like, what happened there? This is a fantastic comic book. It really is. One of the better number ones that I can ever remember reading.
Yeah.
And it even gives us, the origin of Spider-Man in a way that we've never seen it before. Even Ultimate Spider-Man's Spider-Man origin is essentially the same sort of stuff. It's the same trappings, and that was deliberate. This is radical, and that's also deliberate. I'm radically in love with this, and I can't wait for more. Pick of the week.
Yep. Pick of the week and pull it.
I'm excited for the rest of the books too. Black Panther, X-Men. Like if they're also this radically different, it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Ooh, Peach Momoko. Come on, baby. Ultimate X-Men. Let's go. No, come on, Sean.
Sean is not excited for that.
I am way out on that.
Hyped.
I'm not convinced. It's definitely a pull. It's definitely a pull. But I need more.
Need more from you.
But like I'm also thinking and trying to remember like what reading the first issue of Bendis's would have been. And I think it would have been very similar to this.
If Bendis were to have written this?
Well, I mean, back in the day, because we don't see Spider-Man in the first issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, 2000 either.
Sure.
But it's full of drama. And it's very compelling, but it's not fully a Spider-Man comic, right? Like Spider-Man's not there.
I see what you mean.
And I'm not saying that to denigrate it, but it's just not all the way there for me yet.
Okay. You got to see some of the superheroics coming out of this now. You got to see him in action. Well,
and I want to see what Hickman's cooking.
Sure.
I like the newspaper drama, and I like, actually, I like everything surrounding Peter. I'm barely interested in Peter at all in this.
Did he have like a black suit? What was the? Just looks like. Is that a silhouette or?
I
It's
think
in
it's just
shadow.
silhouette. Yeah.
It's in shadow, and then with the amount of different covers we had with the suit, something tells me that like whatever suit we do get in issue 2 is going to be wildly different than what we've seen so far.
I think so.
Surprised by that. But I also don't really understand why they wouldn't have just shown it if it was going to be standard Spidey. It's not really a surprise if
What if
it
it's
just looks
green?
normal. Oh God!
What if it
please
has like
no.
fur like an actual tarantula?
What if it's Webman?
Oh, I love Webman.
Oh, listen. Yeah.
Before we move on from this, actually, real fast, what do you guys think about the idea that in this universe, Peter is choosing actively to become Spider-Man?
There's almost like a fate aspect of it because you can tell he knows something's wrong. Something was taken from him, but he doesn't know what it is, and it is festering in him.
But the thing is, the thing about that is Pony put that there.
Yep.
True.
So I don't know. I I like the idea that he chooses it because that's who he is. But I think I'd like to see more of him being that. You know, he gets. Well, I think Hound said it in the Discord at some point. Where is great power and great responsibility gonna come through?
Because he's choosing the responsibility and the power
Yeah.
in this moment. And it also feels like a selfish decision to me. It doesn't feel because he's now choosing to live a life that is going to be extremely dangerous, as we know, and he has to know that. And he's got kids. Like there's a huge difference between being a 16-year-old nerd getting powers and saying, you know what, I'm going to use these powers to protect my hood, and being an adult man with a life and saying, you know what, I'm going to get these powers, I'm going to take them, and I'm going to go and, do whatever and leave MJ at home with the kids when I could die.
But also,
let alone the danger of falling as a 30 something. I'm terrified to fall. Are you kidding me?
imagine doing a flip.
Oh, let alone a backflip. Good God.
But like the one thing about that though is just like there are no superheroes in this world, so maybe he doesn't really know what he's getting into.
That's a fair point.
I mean, if you put on a costume and go fight people, it's probably going to be, it's probably going to put people at risk.
True, I am on real life vigilante TikTok, and there's some wild stuff that happens on there, so that is true.
Well, and even just seeing, Tony in a funny suit, and being blamed for, this massive explosion or whatever, he knows he's putting a target on his face.
Yeah, I would imagine. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't think he took the powers to just be able to swing around happily. I feel like he's got an agenda, and that agenda is at odds with his personal life. But again, it's a different spin, and that's why I'm excited to see where they go with it, even if I do feel like this is a selfish act. But we'll see how that plays out.
Midlife crisis.
Right. Amin Perez says, Sean, I think being tied to Ultimate Invasion in such a profound way might be detrimental in the long term. I can see that, but I trust Hickman, and I believe he's got a plan for this to make sense and feel right ultimately. But we also have to accept that it might not feel like what we expect from Spider-Man all the time.
And Ultimate Invasion wasn't all the way his.
Right. Yeah. We don't even know the depths of, we don't, we'll see how it plays out. But I think this is a good enough issue to tide over anybody's concerns, at least for the first arc.
Yeah.
And are we on agreement that like Aunt May's probably not actually dead, right?
I think she's dead.
Yeah.
Because that building got like zapped, or that block got zapped out of existence, but like it disappeared. There was no rubble. So I'm of the belief that like they didn't get killed.
Norman's the one that I don't believe is dead.
Mm.
I sort of feel like Hickman wanted to make a deliberate choice to not lean on that character, but truthfully, anything is in play.
Hmm.
We didn't see bodies, so that's the rule, right?
Nobody, no crime.
Yeah. Well, we loved Ultimate Spider-Man #1. It's awesome. Go buy it. It's worth your time. It's Ultimate Spider-Man #2, written by Jonathan Hickman, with art by Marco Cicchetto, colors by Matthew Wilson, letters by Corey Pettit. The first page gives us the answer that everybody wanted, the first big question that everybody had, which was, what's the costume deal? Well, some of us knew based on, previews and things like that, that Spider-Man's costume was indeed a black one, but not the black suit, not the symbiote, not anything like that. It doesn't even have a spider symbol on it.
Is it a symbiote though? Because he can change it at will.
I think it's more like the spiders that come out of the watch in not Ultimate Spider-Man Unlimited, the cartoon.
I think it's technology.
Yeah.
It's tech based. Okay, got it. That would make sense because Tony would have given him that power, right? Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
Yeah. So we get that answer right up front, which I like. I like that there's no more mystery about that. And this is a series that's intent on moving at the pace that Jonathan Hickman wants it to move at. He spends time with the family, establishing a little bit more of the relationship with these characters. We get more time with Ben and J. Jonah Jameson. Peter's first couple of nights out as Spider-Man, his first encounter with a villain, in this case, the Shocker. And we learn a little bit more about Kingpin and his role in the grand scheme of, this world domination bit that the Maker has with the leaders of the different nations. And we do get literally one panel of the new Green Goblin. And that's the issue.
Speaking of the issue, book of the week, pick of the week.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, but it's because there's one book here that I think I might have enjoyed a little bit more. But this was great.
Yeah, yeah. I think to everything you just said, Sean, like from a pacing standpoint, this delivers in nice doses everything that I need to understand to have the story continue. A few pages, I think I counted 4 pages to 5 pages per scene, and that felt like a good enough amount of time to be able to get some conversations going, have it be a little, detailed and nuanced there. And for me, the opening and closing of the costume was really cute. It opens with the answer to what we were getting from last issue, like you mentioned, but then also the closing in our colors, our classic colors of the costume. So I thought that this issue tied everything from the previous issue together with this issue, and now foreshadows some of the stuff that's coming in the next issue. So I had a lot of fun with that, and all of the art, I think, crushed.
I really like this issue. It's Hickman and Cicchetto, so you kind of getting that in this, and I mean that in a positive way. I'm still not fully sold on this being a brand new status quo for Peter Parker that we've been gunning for years in a way. It doesn't feel totally different yet. Like I was half expecting Peter to have issues, with his back in the suit. Like maybe I wanted like an old Peter, and he kind of gets it in this issue pretty quickly. Even like the original Ultimate Spider-Man, at least learning the power set took a little longer. So I think it's, I don't know, I don't think it's bad. I just don't see it being a totally different feeling thing that I was expecting.
I can see that. I think that Hickman is going to have to explain to us why it's worth Peter sacrifice or putting his life at risk while he is a father to children that definitely need his presence to be Spider-Man. You know, he talks in this issue, Peter does, about the idea that he's lost something was taken from him that he didn't even know necessarily was missing, and now he's asking himself the question of, is it my responsibility to now live this life that was supposed to be mine? And I guess that's compelling, but he hasn't quite yet stopped to say, and I get, there just hasn't been time, but he hasn't stopped to say, is it worth me doing this thing that I don't even know I need to do and risk my life, risk my children, risk my wife, risk all these things? Is it worth it? He's got to deal with that.
We haven't seen him come up against a real risk yet, though. Like he figures out he can take a hit. But same as any other Shocker, it's no big deal. So I think once we start getting real villains in the mix, I think that's when we'll see the real adult questioning. He's just in the fun of it right now.
Which I think is a good point, and it in some way mirrors 616 Peter, in the sense that when he first gets his powers, he's like, yo, this shit is amazing. Like, what can I not do? Testing the limits of what he's capable of and everything like that. And it's not until his uncle dies that he realizes, oh, I'm supposed to use this for the good of others. I could have stopped that. I could have saved him. So maybe here it's kind of like, hey, this is amazing. I feel better than ever. I look better than ever. I've got powers now. Why not? And then something occurs. Maybe it is Uncle Ben dying again. Maybe it's something that is new, that is that switch up that creates the catalyst for him to need to be Spider-Man.
Dan in the chat brings up a good point here. It's the idea of unrealized ambition versus responsibility to family that's sort of being tackled, somewhat in this. For me, it's just I don't have that, like you said, Sean. I don't have that inciting incident yet. That's really driving the plot forward for me.
But neither does Peter.
Sure, and I think that's where it's just like, I know it's only issue 2, so that's why I'm giving it some leeway. But it's still there's nothing really there for me yet. The meat's not quite there.
And I think a lot of times maybe that would bother me. I just feel like this is so freaking good. I'm blown away by the art. Like, Chiquetto, if you asked me 10 years ago who's in your top 5, his name would have been in it. And for it to be, and it would have been for years.
Ago.
Yeah. And to be here and to see this, how good this is, this far down the road, it's like, my man, yo, you're on another level. And honestly, I'm having more fun with this than I am anything Hickman has done since House and Powers. This is so freaking good. And, the last page, Marco mentioned it, the inspiration for how Peter is going to sort of get to the design of Spider-Man, it's those small moments.
Yep.
Everything is working. It's just so good. It's undeniable.
Well, and I think that's what is setting this apart from God's and even Hickman's X-Men post Hoxpox is just like it's so focused that it feels natural and it feels like a good story where you can live in it for a second, where Peter has the conversation with the Shocker where he's like, listen, clearly you're just a guy who, needs help, and I'm the kind of guy that'll stop you, and and he falls for it. Like, that's a good moment.
Yeah. I also think it's worth pointing out that moment kind of implies, well, I think this issue implies that Peter does not have spider sense yet. Right? If at all, if he'll ever have it.
Yeah, presumably.
He just gets blasted
yeah.
more than once by surprise.
That's a good point. No, we addressed it. Never mind. Good stuff.
I think it's funny that Mary Jane asks if he's been working out. Like Peter wasn't already a fucking Marco Cicchetto drawing in the first issue. Like,
Even Kingpin in this just looks ripped still. Like, I don't think Shadow can draw ugly people.
Speaking of Kingpin, so I think this issue confirms, I guess it's Kingpin adjacent, but it confirms the theory from last time. I think it was Tyler who posited that that's Bullseye, his companion guy with the eye patch.
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it's got
Because the Captain, I think that's Captain Britain, right? That's speaking with him, says they're having a conversation essentially about the fact that Kingpin serves a greater master and he needs to use the resources that he has to eliminate his problems, which right now are the Green Goblin and potentially Spider-Man. And when he says use the resources you've been given, he points at Bullseye, or the character we believe to be Bullseye. And I feel like this is confirmation of that.
Yeah, it just smells like the Bullseye roll, and it looks like Colin Farrell from the movie. So,
all in all, I give this issue a huge thumbs up. This was great.
Easy
yeah.
pull.
Oh,
Yeah.
great place to jump on a cool modern
Yeah.
Spider-Man book.
by all accounts, issue 2 is actually purchasable in most places. So,
Yes.
that's good.
Oh, they kept it on the truck.
This time they did.
Do you guys want to take a second to speculate about who the Green Goblin is? I'm on the Harry train.
It makes sense. We haven't met anybody else yet, so
I'm just going to say MJ.
Ooh, I was gonna say Gwen Stacy.
Do I have a... All right, mine was crazy, and then Marcos was like, all right, I can be crazier.
like even Aunt May makes more sense than Gwen Stacy. We at least have evidence of Aunt May.
Listen, if you want to go down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole, I am literally always game for it. So, Mary Jane has a green. Look at that green right there. When she's putting on her jacket, all that green. I'm just saying, could be.
Could
Could
be.
be.
Maybe.
That's signature. No, Gwen is said that. That's Gwen's coat is green,
Green,
Right.
that's
and
what
her
I'm saying.
color. Ooh,
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying she has to just leave during the day, and what happens during the day, too? Kingpin gets attacked.
Yeah. Could be. Do I believe in this theory? Hell no. But I thought
not at all.
let's just bullshit about it for 3 seconds. Uncaged says Team Gwen.
Let's go.
Inquisitor Drake says, I think JJ dying is going to be the catalyst. Ben fills the Jameson role in this universe.
I was thinking about that. Like, what would be the inciting incident, to your point, Cale, to get him to wake up and be like, hold on a second, there's consequences to this? I was thinking it's one of the kids. It's been revealed, the identity there. That might be like a really torturous way to do so. Maybe not like the child gets killed, but kidnapped. You know, the child's life is put at risk.
Like a Dark Knight with Gordon's kid.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see kidnapped. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, Jameson doesn't feel like would that I just don't know how impactful that is.
I think narratively,
Well-
too, Jameson is the only comedy character in this book.
I think in this world that would be really impactful, because he very clearly looks up to Jameson as a journalism father figure, whereas it seems like he has a bit more of a strained relationship with Ben. Not that it's bad by any means, but it's, there is some distance there, probably because of May's disappearance. Whereas it seems like Jameson has taken him on and under his wing a little bit more.
Well, according to Manny in the chat, the identity of Green Goblin is obvious. So why don't you
I swear, if
share?
Manny's going to say Paul. He's going to say Paul.
Come
I
on,
know it.
hotshot.
Why don't you share? Yeah, share that with us now. Amin
What
says,
if
"What if Hickman pulls a one more day and it's MJ?" That's funny because that phrase "one more day" is actually used in this issue.
Oh, oh,
Yes, I think it's on the last page. I thought it was
Yeah.
so funny. Hickman is such a cheeky writer.
well, and it's in reference to the red and blue costume, and also uh little May Parker. Is that her name? May? Am I
yeah.
crazy?
Yeah, it is.
It is
Yeah.
May.
You're right. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
May and Richard. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's the name of their kid one more day, isn't it?
May, May Parker.
I don't
It's
recall.
Mayday, I think.
Yeah,
Well, that's
Yeah,
yeah,
so
but
it's May.
that's
Yeah,
isn't that
that's Spider Girl
but
from
I
way
feel
back
like
when.
Peter and MJ's daughter is always May, no matter what iteration it is.
I
It
think you're
always
right,
winds up
yeah.
being May. Yeah.
yeah.
Manny thinks it's pretty obvious that it's Harry.
Well,
No.
you show up 15 minutes late. We've already talked about that. Like
Said
that's
it.
you're not
Scolding the listener.
man.
Who's Ned Leeds?
Ned
Marco.
Leeds. Why? I mean, that would be that. Is that interesting if it's Ned Leeds?
Especially when we don't know Ned Leeds here.
Yeah,
We
that
barely know him in
sucks.
the main universe.
That
I think
sucks.
I think Manny's right in this in so much that Harry is the obvious pick. He got introduced in the first
Yeah.
issue and he was kind of a weirdo. And then right after that, we go right to Green Goblin. But I think it's so obvious it's not the pick.
I think it's Harry. I'm just saying, yeah, right, of course. But the point of the conversation was like, do we have, who is it? I don't know.
Yeah, he's obviously right. We're just hoping for something better.
What if it's Uncle Ben?
No,
He can't fit in that suit.
That's true. Yeah. He just had to wear like a compression suit or something.
Yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man's great. It's great. I can't wait to see what this is looking like in 20 issues. And I hope Hickman sticks around. I hope he's got the run in him. I really do. Marco saying no.
I don't think I care about it in 20 issues either.
Oh no, I'm gonna care about it, but I don't know that he has it in him to stick around that long. He's gonna pass it off because
Oh.
I feel like he's too much architect. It's like you lay the foundation, go do this other thing.
Yeah.
Because that really worked out with the X-Men.
They're learning from their mistakes, Tyler.
Let's talk about Ultimate Spider-Man #3.
Okay.
This is written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Marco Cicchetto, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by Corey Pettit. Man, if this isn't a fun-ass comic book. It's Spider-Man, one part father, being a dad, kind of having an adventure with his daughter, and a scene that I think a lot of us were wondering how we would get to it, and it's a lot of fun. Also being a sort of a son, but also an adult with a job, wondering what's going on with Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson, and getting in the mix with them as they try to uncover what's happening with Fisk. And then there's Spider-Man, and it's Spider-Man and the Green Goblin versus Bullseye. That's everything that happens in this book. It's the intricacies of those scenes, and it's the character work, and it's the art that makes this such a good comic book.
I finally feel like we're getting somewhere with this. I felt like the first two were kind of. It felt like it was going a little slow, but I'm glad they do the reveal at the end of this issue. I think it's necessary. Can I say it? Are we allowed to spoil it? Can we do spoiler alerts?
Yeah, full spoilers.
I mean,
yeah.
it's not really a spoiler. The Green Goblin reveals himself as Harry, and
Wildly predictable.
Yeah, and they forced the reveal of Peter as well to Harry, and I'm glad they got that out of the way now. Like, if it was going to be Harry, just do it. Don't prolong that, unless it was going to be some kind of surprise on who it was. I like how that gives Peter another dynamic to work with. Now he has to deal with it's his work friend, essentially at this point. So I'm curious to see where that goes and how that is different than what we've gotten in the main 616.
And to what you mentioned at the top, just in terms of character work, We started out the gate with that father aspect. The scene of the costumes, man, just pure joy.
The scene
It,
of the costumes, explain it.
just it being where Peter's trying out different styles and Mazer going, no, maybe add some color, maybe a little less scary. It's just cutesy moments that I think help to flesh out this version of Spider-Man, especially knowing that he's coming into this as a father, right? I think it also is adding not stakes, but showing you what is potentially at risk, right? And as much as he is going to lean into the super heroics, he does have other things to take care of and care about, and this is a way to show that sympathy.
Yeah, so Marco referred to the scene where Peter gets his costume.
Yeah.
And it's a scene that is a whole lot of fun. You know, his daughter's just watching him sort of adjust his suit and get these different designs that are all coming from his brain. Which of course, you have to stretch your mind a little bit. But I like the fact that the spider design is not it's not always like perfect. It looks a little weird because it's just coming from the mind of a dude who's a non-artist. But there was actually something in this scene that stuck out to me that I wonder if you guys had any opinion about. So the first time that he changes his costume, she says it's scary. And there's an emphasis because she says it twice that it's scary. And it's a black costume. It's the black and white costume, not Venom. It doesn't look exactly like that. It kind of reminds me of the Spider-Man 3 Venom costume in a way.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if that was a bit of like foreshadowing on Hickman's part. Did anyone else feel that way?
I thought that was more of a tongue-in-cheek play. I mean, she said the original costume was scary too, which was just black. And then you add a creepy spider to it, probably makes it a little more scary. I don't want him touching that this early on. Like, I'm okay with never having to deal with a symbiote Spider-Man in this world.
Or
Well,
at least yeah.
the way the mask fizzles away later as well when Harry forces the reveal, that felt very symbiote to me too, and it burns
Yeah.
away black in that same way. So yeah, I could see it. I didn't think about it, but I could see it.
I really like Chiquetto's design for Spider-Man though. It's classic. It's not that different than anything we've seen, but I like the spider. It's a little different. And it's just so clean, man. What a tremendous artist.
I think it's closer to the original, like
Yeah.
the OOOG,
Mhm.
you know.
I even like the jokes and the alternate costumes he had, even though it feels like the Spider-Man game costumes at some point, But there's a joke to the Ben Riley costume, Iron Spider, and like the Fantastic Four thing. So, I think that hoodie one still looks good. Like even the one Shadow draws here, I'm a big fan of the hoodie Scarlet Spider, but
We're old, apparently.
I guess so. Yeah.
Were you guys were you guys disappointed at all that it ends up being the classic suit? I mean, we knew it was.
I
No.
was honestly. Yeah.
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 Really?
I just
It
like
just makes sense, I feel like.
Does it make sense though? Like, it's a whole new world. It almost makes less sense that it's identical, almost identical to the original suit.
Well, it's
It,
his destiny, right? So
yeah, that's what I sort of thought. I'm like, he's gonna end up doing that, and similarly, I thought that of Harry. It's ultimately gonna end up being because that's maybe there's some destiny there to some degree as well.
I hate that even more.
Like, I understand color theory, primary colors are going to be like the good guy, but like, what about Red and Blue Scream Spider? He wasn't even bitten by a spider, Like it's this nanotech.
I mean, what
So
about Red and Blue screamed Spider in 60 whatever whenever he was created? Like, I don't know.
no, I think that was that.
Yeah.
I think that was color theory at that point to do that.
Well, yeah. And now it's destiny.
Ugh.
Um I also really kind of love the Peter, Jonah, Ben relationship. I think making that a triumvirate where Spider-Man is almost the Batman in that. I think that's kind of interesting. If you replace the other two with, of course, Harvey and Jim Gordon, it has that same vibe. He's the one that can go out and do the grunt work. He can go out and do and investigate and figure out what's going on and then feed them information theoretically. So I'm interested in seeing how that's going to play out, but it seems very, very obvious to me that one of those two is on the chopping block. This is going to get very real and one of them's going to die.
Yeah.
What if it's a kid instead?
That's way too heavy. I don't see that.
We floated it last time, but in relation to just like threatening, I don't know, like killing might be too far, at least for the kid. But I can see that dynamic with the other two, and somehow I'm leaning towards. Actually, no. If we're talking about destiny, right, Ben.
No, it's gonna be Jonah.
I don't know. I mean, everything else is playing out. It's panning out to some degree, you know.
If it's not Jonah, I'm done with this.
Come on.
No,
You're gonna. Do you
We've got
think
the same suit, and Osborn is the Goblin, and then Uncle Ben is gonna die? What are we here for?
Okay, calm down. Do you think that this is a good comic book?
It's fine. I found this issue again predictable in everything that we've talked about. We've called all this stuff.
I love your takes on Spider-Man comics, Cale. Because the older I get, the more I start to agree with you.
And another thing, the thing that really bugs me about Peter Parker in this, he's got way too much swagger.
Nah,
he's a young dad, you know.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think well, and I guess this is to Hickman's credit. Even if I'm not totally a fan of it, I think adult Peter has melded what we know about Peter's origin and then the dichotomy between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He's done that really well in that Spider-Man, as we know him, has become adult Peter Parker, who now has to become Spider-Man. Does that make any sense? Attitude-wise, personality.
I got a little dizzy there, but I mean, look at his wife. I mean, he had to have at least some kind of swagger at this point.
As the kids call it.
You're the youngest one here, Marco.
And it's probably out of play already, so.
We get the big action beat here again is Green Goblin and Spider-Man versus Bullseye. It's more like Green Goblin versus Bullseye with Spider-Man kind of finishing things up. That was awesome. Bullseye came across really badass here. He hangs with the Green Goblin, who we know is a dangerous person, right? But boy, oh boy, is Bullseye formidable. Like, he just doesn't give a fuck. He's been here, done that. This is all routine to him. He's going to kill them, and it's no big deal.
I thought Chichetto draws a really good redesigned costume that looks tactical and realistic, you know? Like Bullseye, I love Bullseye as a character, but him running around in spandex in this world that seems a little more realistic doesn't really make sense. So this redesign really works, and I like how it still keeps the motif of the target on his forehead. I also love that he almost exclusively uses playing cards.
Oh, that was so cool, man. That was cool.
I love that he has knee pads. That's so funny.
It was wild. I just looked at that photo and went, "Oh, those knee pads! I bet those are strong as hell."
The only critique that I had for that sequence is just that I felt like Bullseye was a little bit too talky. I would have preferred his talking to be dialed down a bit. It took away from his menace just a tad. But other than that, awesome sequence.
Yeah, this was absolutely great.
Yeah, I think this is my pick of the week. I'm looking real quickly at the other books. I think this is my pick of the week.
I'm with you there. Yeah. I think just on Chichetto art alone, I just think it's really good art.
Yeah. The art's crazy good. Like, if you're not buying this, just off art, you're missing out.
There's also a fantastic Mike Del Mundo variant for this that they put on the stream. That's essentially a play on the Spider-Man No More cover, but he's just doing laundry instead. It's so good.
That's good.
That's this mess.
This book has actually had quite a few like really good covers.
Yeah.
And not just standard Spider Pose covers, like covers that are just quality that feature the family, you know, out of costume things.
How do you feel about the way the trade dressing works for the covers of the Ultimates line?
The thing on the side looks a little bulky, like the
Mm.
yeah, it looks a little bulky.
I don't really have much to say about it. It's a decision, you know, that they're making, and I'm cool with it. It's, you know, it's fine. I don't know if you guys noticed though, but like now that I'm actually paying attention to it since you asked, that this is all the cover, but the parts that are under the parts of the art that are under the trade dress are black and white, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and at least for the Spider-Man ones, everything is right leaning in terms of the action because of the way the trade dress works.
yeah.
Which I've noticed, you know, having to get images for this, and it's been a little frustrating, honestly. But
Do you do you guys think that in this version he's gonna tell MJ what's going on? Because up front they were kind of honest about how he feels and whether or not he needs to do something and have this change. May already knows. Are they gonna? Do you guys feel like we're gonna continue to get the, you know, two sides of one, he's the father and the superhero, and not get it kind of merged, and MJ has just an understanding that, yeah, this is a thing you have to do?
I think that duality is intrinsic to Spider-Man in the most sense. You know, the whole having a secret identity in that. So I feel like they're going to continue with him not telling MJ just yet. But at the same time, he's swinging around with this young child on his shoulders. Like he just
Yeah.
learned how to do this. I feel like he's being a horrible husband right now.
Something bad is going to result from all this. And I think right now it's fun and games. He's taking his daughter, he's eating donuts, he's doing all that. And I think Hickman is playing all that up for a reason. And whenever that time comes, I don't think it's going to involve the death of his daughter, but I do think she's going to potentially be exposed to something that is going to cause, and on top of that, someone is going to die, and MJ is going to have to look at Peter differently, and it's going to cause drama. You know, right now their relationship is not interesting, but it will get interesting, and the drama's coming. I think, you know, I've seen criticism of this book moving too slowly. I mean, what do you want? What do you want to happen? Do you want him to accelerate things just to get to the action, just to get to reveals? I mean, this is a story. I don't understand what it is that people expect.
And he's doing all the things you need, I would imagine, in a book too, right? You got the action here, you have the individual character building, you have some of the stuff playing, different threads playing in the background. Like, this has been an incredible pace, frankly.
I agree. Cale, you a pull or a pass on this?
I think I'm a pull ultimately, so to speak.
Yeah, good pun.
Let's hit a couple of listener comments. Listeners have been you guys have been active in the chat. Thank you for that. Always appreciate the engagement. Let's see.
I have one from Dan that I wanted to
Shoot.
bring up. Dan said, I hate anything about destiny in a Spider-Man story. It's supposed to be about choices. The choice not to stop the robber that ultimately killed Uncle Ben.
Though the destiny of Peter being the one that gets his bitten by the spider.
Well, then destiny comes into play when you bringing in, you know, the whole great web and stuff. And I'm like, all right, that's where I check out a Spider-Man.
I'm not a fan of the great web stuff, and I think the destiny aspect of Spider-Man is way overplayed in in 616. But literally, the story told us this is his destiny. In Ultimate, that is the story. So it's really not a matter of even like this being a carryover of mainline 616. It's just that literally Peter's meant to be Spider-Man. Someone intervened, which is the same truth for lots of other heroes. Spider-Man's not the only one for whom his destiny was taken. It's just that Ultimate Spider-Man focuses on Spider-Man. So, uh, Atomic Count said the costume scene is an influence from the movies that doesn't happen 30 years ago. Not saying one is better than the other. An influence from the movies, how? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, I feel like they were
Uh,
just kind of like testing stuff out.
Maybe the first Toby Maguire one, where he's drawing the
Oh,
scene, the ones in his notebook.
okay.
My guess.
Yeah.
Well,
It's also just cool to see different spider suits,
yeah, it's good fun.
And I also think what Tyler said, where Hickman and Marco were having fun with
Yeah.
showing off these different like variations on classic costumes. Because we're not going to see them. Like there's likely not going to be a Ben Riley, because that would just be crazy and doesn't seem like the kind of thing Hickman wants to involve himself with.
So far.
Yeah, right. Atomic Hound also said, I'm old and thought this was unpredictable, probably my fading mental capacity. For me, predictability in storytelling is not a sin. I don't think that there's anything wrong with predictability if it's the right thing for the story. Like there have been tons of theories floated about who the Green Goblin would be. And maybe there's a world where Uncle Ben being the Green Goblin makes sense and a different creative team tells that story. But it's not what makes sense for this story. And what makes sense for this story is the predictability of it being Harry. Now, if we went 6 issues with the question hanging over us and then it ultimately is Harry, that's bad predictability because we snuffed that out in issue 1. But getting it out the way, saying there's no mystery to this, it's not about the mystery, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
It's about the
And
friendship.
I think it's better to be, like in my case, I think it's better to be slightly disappointed about that now so that Hickman can pull the rug or whatever he's going to do later on.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Tom Account says they would never have spent that many panels on a costume choice. Well, welcome to decompressed storytelling, bud. It's the new world we're in. Any week we get to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man is a week on which I am very pleased. And this is one such week. We've got Ultimate Spider-Man number 4 on tap. We're going to lead with this. Jonathan Hickman on the words, joined this month by David Messina, giving series artist Marco Cicchetto a little bit of a break, which is to be expected in modern comics. It's just how it goes. Colors by Matthew Wilson and letters by Corey Pettit. This is the double date. I mean, it's a very different issue, but it reminded me of the Batman, Selina, Superman, Lois double date issue.
Yeah, same.
And it's Peter and MJ, it's Harry and his date. We'll drop that bombshell in a quick moment. And that's all it is. But it's so much more than that at the same time. I'm very interested to hear where you guys land on this particular issue. I'm going to open the conversation by leading with the bombshell. And if you do not want to hear this, now is absolutely the time to skip ahead. It's going to be very difficult to talk about this without saying the bombshell more than once. So you might even want to skip to a later review if you're listening to this in the future. If so, hello. And if you're listening to this live, take the headphones off for a few minutes because Marco didn't get to the issue. This issue is revealed that Harry's wife is none other than Ultimate Gwen Stacy.
Yo, jaw dropped. I'm like, oh, let's see who's good. Oh, huh? Okay.
So I got to this. I was making the thumbnail for the show, and I wanted to do a quick title for it. So I was like, all right, let me just flip through the book real quick. And I flipped to that before I even read it, and I was like, son of a shit. Spoiled myself.
There was something, not to say that I called it, issue 1 or, after the announcement or whatever, but there was something about the page turn that made me go, oh, of course it's Gwen Stacy.
Yeah. I don't know what it was about it, but I was just like, yeah, of course it's Gwen Stacy. Sure.
Who else could it be? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
that
Ultimate
felt
Spider-Man.
too
though.
obvious.
yeah.
For me, it's not in a bad way. It's just that it
Yeah.
didn't shock me.
Sure. Okay.
It made. Do you mind? You see this? Good grief. It made sense in a way that adds up. Not necessarily in a bad way, just in a not surprising way.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that Gwen Stacy was sleeping with a Green Goblin. So,
Whoa. Yeah.
True. So I like it. It's fine. Gwen Stacy is a staple character of Spider-Man. Even if she's dead in 616, I think you're always going to see her pop up. The OG Ultimate Spider-Man, she was a very prominent character in that. So, fair play. Absolutely fair play.
And I think it's always interesting to see her when she's not, the perfect woman.
Right.
A lot of people might not know this. One of the reasons Stan wanted to kill her was he was like, there's nothing here. There's nothing else I can do. She's the perfect woman. We've got to get rid of her.
And to what Cale's talking about, in the characterization here of Gwen, she's very very forward. She's very forward. She has specific beliefs. She's the CEO, I think, of Oscorp. I think that's what I got out of this
Something like that,
conversation.
I
yeah.
believe so. Yeah.
She's a very, very, very successful person in business, and I think that the characteristics that lead to a person attaining this level of success are present in her character. And she almost bulldozes the Parkers just because of how forthright she is, and I enjoyed that. I've always been a fan of Gwen Stacy's, but if you really get into the weeds about like who is she, who is this character, everything you're going to say is going to be something nice and positive and good, and that's it, because then she died.
Yep.
And when they muddied her up a little bit by putting her in bed with old Norman, that freaked everybody out, because Gwen Stacy was, the for lack of a better phrase, like the Virgin Mary of, of comics. Like, she is perfect.
Yeah, Gwen Stacy and Barry Allen were the two untouchables of comics before 2010. Well, before Sin's passed, for sure.
and I think they did something similar with MJ in this as well. MJ's history is always, oh, she's a model. And it's so based on that. But we already learned, like, yeah, this MJ was a model, but she's more of a marketing director now, which sounds boring for a comic book when I say it that way. But it's more of in the sense that she's like an image cleaner.
Right.
And I like that addition to her because it adds nuance to something, but still retains that original kind of core tenet of the character. This issue actually reminded me of Hickman's X-Men issue of that Apocalypse in the Suit. Just that like a sit-down people talking issue.
Good.
Well,
good
I think to sort of go a step further with what you're saying about MJ, I think it's a very grown-up issue of comic books. And what I mean by that is it's an issue about people, who just met, going out to dinner and learning about each other in a very adult way.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that often bothers me about issues like this that center character is that a lot of times the dialogue just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like people conversing.
Hmm.
And Hickman, to me, is one of the premier masters of dialogue in comics. And the thing that he gets so right is that he's actually able to micro progress the plot forward while informing us about who these characters are and driving their relationships forward in meaningful ways, all within the confines of this dinner conversation. Somehow I was never bored. And I actually came into this conversation expecting at least one person here to say, this issue was kind of boring. And it doesn't seem like that's the vibe here. And I'm really glad for that because the dialogue was so crisp that I was on the hook for all of it.
I think it's you can say it's boring in the sense that like it is boring the fact that no action happens, but I don't think it's like a negative thing. I thought it was really interesting, and it was realistic too. I don't know which one of you said it, but it did feel like a real like adults talking to each other thing. The part that gets me is when MJ and Peter leave the restaurant. They instantly start talking, not talking shit, but they're like, they do that after get together. What's the word called?
So that was
Wrap up.
nice. They seemed
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
Little
intense.
debrief.
Intense.
yeah. It felt realistic, which it's really cementing this as an adult Peter Parker, which we've been kind of prevented from ever getting. He's always on the cusp, and he is like a young adult, but this is like Dad Peter, married Dad Peter, and he has been for a while.
And I think also to that, there's always been an aspect of him having to handle it alone, like him not having somebody in his court. And in this, like right at the end, she says like, I've got you. Like, what I need heroes for, I've got you. And obviously, that's a play into something that happens in the issue in the conversation. But um, he feels comfortable in being able to do that and communicate with MJ. So for that, I think also another sort of end of uh, an adult issue.
And I want to say to people that are, you know, frustrated by the pace of this series or, situations like this one, if you're a fan, and I'm specifically talking to hardcore Spider-Man fans right now.
Oh, good.
If
I'll check
if
out.
if you're a hardcore Spider-Man fan who dislikes Amazing and you've spent the last 10 years of your life angry about One More Day and the dissolution of the marriage and everything else, and you want Peter to grow up, I feel like this is what that looks like. I feel like what we're getting now is that. To me, as someone who definitely felt that way when One More Day happened, this is what I thought we'd get. Like, this is what I want to get. This is compelling to me because it's radically different, right? Like, you're never going to see this kind of issue in a mainline Spider-Man book. And if it's not written by a master like Hickman, it's not going to come across this way. I normally we save the comments. I wanted to touch on Atomic Hound. He said he thought it was boring. And I'm curious as to why. Like, I guess, yeah, I'm curious to hear why.
I
wondering
mean,
if he's just saying it
I've seen
because.
some
Oh, go ahead, Marco.
like sorry, like I've seen conversation of just like, oh, there weren't punches thrown, there wasn't action, and I feel like sometimes that gets defined as what becomes interesting. Not to say that that's what, not to put words in Atomic Hound's mouth, but I know a lot of times it's like there wasn't movement in a physical sense, but here we get a lot of movement as it comes to people's intentions, as it comes to the way that people navigate with themselves. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but we finally got the words of wisdom dropped onto Peter, and it was interesting from the who that source was.
Okay, Atomic Hound did respond. Tyler said it well, interesting, but this felt somewhat like Wonder Woman 7 without the over-the-top attempts at jokes.
That was
Yeah.
the shopping mall issue, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know though, because that issue's sort of superfluous to the overall idea of the Wonder Woman series, whereas this is
Yeah.
pretty integral to what's going on. I mean, on the one hand, you know, Harry clearly wants to have a conversation with Peter about what they're really doing. And, you know, on the other side of that, which I thought was arguably more interesting, was the fact that Gwen is getting in the mix and she pulls MJ aside to have a conversation about investing into the paper. And I think that in an issue, in an individual issue, that is not movement. Not much, right? But think about how that could play out. If she's putting money behind the paper, behind Jonah and Uncle Ben, and now they have more resources, they become more dangerous to the Kingpin. And that puts them even deeper into his crosshairs. And we can all see this is going to end badly. And they're all complicit. And I can easily see someone involved in this dying.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely thought of it as direct competition, but you're right that in that case, Kingpin becomes and we already, figured with his presence, he'd become the main antagonist, but this is the way this is the way how it's gonna happen. Um and based off the conversation, I also don't trust Harry. There's an undertone of not of kind of a manipulation. They're playing, a couple chess moves ahead and bringing them in as if this is going to be a good opportunity.
I think the coloring and the art kind of alludes to that as well. I mean, Cale had me pull a couple pages from this, but a lot of the times when Harry is talking to Peter, it's in this like half lit, really dark and menacing kind of
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
which made me really feel like, oh, something bad is going to happen because of this. It's a lot like it almost. I mean, not a spoiler for Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation, but the Harry in that, um, where maybe good intentions at the offset, but it can get bad.
Marowak just said literally what I was about to say. Gwen dies again, Harry becomes evil. I think that's what's gonna happen.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm reading everybody at this in this conversation as genuine. I didn't feel that there was any ulterior motives. I think that everybody involved is going to get way too in over their heads. Harry says and we need to touch on this part, obviously, the conversation between Harry and Peter. Harry is confused about why he hasn't told MJ about him being Spider-Man. And Peter tells Harry, "Hey, it's important for us to, keep our loved ones safe." Um and Harry's not really that swayed by that. And Peter's not even sure he should be doing this as a father. And Harry is telling him, "Hey man, we have to save the world. We have a mission here." To this point, Peter's been having a blast and he's been stopping small petty crime. Harry's talking about saving the entire planet, and he's just a guy.
Yeah.
Peter has powers. They're all in over their heads.
And the one thing that's not explicitly stated in this issue, but I think there's a bit of revenge on Harry's mind as well, because his dad Norman was killed in the blast.
Of course.
Yeah, he's one of the
So
missing.
that's just like inherent in him, that like he has it's Harry versus the world in a way, because the world and the state of it led to the death of his father.
So probably the most critical piece of this issue is in the midst of the conversation between Harry and Peter. Harry drops a bombshell that we always sort of wondered where this was going to come from. And I'm going to read a little bit from the issue now. So Harry says, "You need to understand where this is headed and what we're up against. These people, they're playing God and they're playing for keeps. And worse than that, they've been doing it our whole lives. It's institutional, it's systemic, it's the whole damn world. And you have great power, Peter. And with great power comes great responsibility. It's such a gift, but only if you use it."
And even in like the 616, I don't think it was ever explicitly stated that way from the character. It was all narration, I believe.
I don't recall, but my memory, for whatever reason, says, of course, that Uncle Ben said that to Peter. Um, but either way, Peter's journey in this series so far has been, I am a middle-aged man, sort of. And I have the life that I've always wanted to have, but something is missing for me. He's going through his midlife crisis. Going out and being Spider-Man in this way is irresponsible when you consider the life that he has. So it's the question of, if I can do the right thing, the most best thing for the world around me, for society, is it okay to risk my family? It's the macro versus the micro. And he's going to have to pay a cost if he chooses to continue to be Spider-Man. And I think that's brilliant and fascinating. Go ahead.
There's another point to that with that other page I had you post, Tyler. Gwen is talking. It's the one where the wine glass is in the middle of the page. So I'm going to take a read of this. And what she says is Gwen says, "You're welcome. Anyway, if you look at the coverage of it, it's sanitized, surrounded. It's not the stories that are corporate. They are, of course, but they're institutionally obtuse. They all miss the point of the masked man." And then in the wine glass, you see reflected Peter and MJ. And someone off panel asks, which is? I wanted to ask you guys what you thought of the art there, because it was a little confusing for me. Is the point of the masked man Peter's family? Is it the relationship between Peter and MJ? Is it just a cool angle?
So my read, I sort of feel like this conversation is furthering that what Peter is doing is going to drive a wedge between him and MJ. That the purpose of the masked man, can theoretically supersede his relationship. Depending on what Peter chooses to do.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I was reading this as this was a bit more tact. This was maybe not metaphor, but just like I'm thinking about your paper. I'm thinking about the dynamic there, and this is how I see it, how I see the world, the function of the paper. I almost like gassing up in order to get the sell.
It's not only the sell of the paper though. It's all because Peter's the one who responds with which is, because Peter's unsure of what Spider-Man is, or the reason for Spider-Man, or the point of Spider-Man. And later on, we know that Gwen knows Peter's Spider-Man. Harry told her. Yeah. So this is her, I guess, hiding the pitch for the paper, but it's really a pitch for Harry's vision for the both of them as heroes. Because she's part of that. So I think that's her playing it, it's the subtext of it is what's actually happening here. That she's asking, what's the point of the masked man? Peter should know the point of it, and trying to have him come to that realization.
And then Harry comes and closes.
Yeah, it's a pitch. It's a pitch meeting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the art. We are without main series artist Marco Cicchetto, but Messina's no slouch, and almost the entire conversation takes place in 9-panel grids, which I think is great for handling, longer conversations in comics. And I think it's used pretty effectively. I didn't mind the absence of Marco's art, but I would not be as happy with this series if Messina was the main artist of the book. I think he does a solid job with the facial work. There's a lot of stuff to get across with the looks of characters and things like that. And I think he does a good enough job, even if Harry's smile is sometimes a little bit over the top. Um, it's a shame though that we don't get to see him do any action sequences.
For me, it's missing the biggest part of this that he's missing is Harry's waves. I don't like how Ultimate Harry Osborn doesn't have the waves.
You got to differentiate it somehow, you know.
I guess, but that, like in my mind, that's such a visual indicator of an Osborn.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe he's not an Osborn.
Maybe.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think he put some special spit polish into Gwen.
Yeah.
And man, he did not pay attention to almost anybody else in the same way.
I felt it. Could feel. I definitely felt the difference. And it didn't bother. It was serviceable, but similarly, Sean, I bring him back.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Still very much a pull. I I had a great time with this issue. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, I know that something shitty is going to happen soon. And I'm along for the ride to see where that goes. I really love this so far.
This was my favorite. This has been my favorite issue of Ultimate Spider-Man so far.
It's the most different, honestly. It's the most that it kind of states its MO for what this book, why it exists.
I think this fulfills the premise to me of adult Spider-Man more than the others have so far.
Let's get right into it and talk about Ultimate Spider-Man number 5. So this is by writer Jonathan Hickman with guest artist. Yes, this is the second issue in a row with a guest artist, David Messina. Corey Pettit on the letters, Joe Sabino, or I'm sorry, wait, okay. They're both credited as letterer. I don't know. And Matt Wilson on the colors. So this issue is really the origin of Harry and the Green Goblin and seeing how he went from being, just the son of Norman, and a young upstart trying to find his place in the world and getting out of his father's shadow to having to step into the forefront of not only, the company, Oscorp, but also the Green Goblin legacy, which not that we know that there is any sort of connection to that at Norman, but the general idea of the legacy of that dynamic. So what did you guys make of this one?
A bit of a bummer not to see Chichetto again. That is nothing against David Messina. I actually like the art in this. But I come into this, I'm thinking, oh, it's Chichetto, right? It's got Chichetto on the cover. So I was like, oh, went out of my sales initially. But as I kept reading it, I actually started to really like this. The whole Osborn family dynamic is one of my favorite dynamics in comics. And to see the familiar aspects of that dynamic here and the slight adjustments that feel like can be a butterfly effect situation for this Ultimate Universe, I found to be really interesting. I thought there was a lot of good world building from Hickman in this issue that I really enjoyed.
I like that there were consequences from the initial action, like that explosion led to so much disruption, and you can feel that permeate to what you're saying, Tyler. And for me, the thing that really signified it was when Kingpin comes a calling, and it's like, oh, hold on a second. It's cool that you inherit the business, but there's also the aspects of it that, maybe you weren't privy to, and it's a reminder that, these characters exist throughout this world as well, and how they still have their machinations. So it was fun to run into Kingpin in that way, and to see them interact with, the rest of the Stark stuff.
Yeah, it was cool to see Kingpin sort of reference the bigger world, and how Stain and Stark leaving that void sort of leaves him in charge. I thought that was a really interesting dynamic. Um, I'm starting to feel the wear on this one a little bit, on this Ultimate series. I would love to get something going.
Mm,
Do you think the 1 month an issue hampers it?
I have no doubt that this would read and trade really well. Because all of the conversation is truly like very good uh locomotive moving dialogue, dialogue that moves. um but I could stand to see somebody punch somebody again.
it took its time. It's taking its time, and I like that. I like that Hickman has been like it was all gas for the first couple issues, and now we're sitting in things. Like, I don't mind that, but I feel what you mean, Kale. Like uh, as much as this was background and this was context, I would have liked it to have ended with, yeah, I think a punch thrown, or what is the next step after this? Because this also didn't necessarily feel like it ended, at least for me, on a cliffhanger either. Like, yes, we have an interrogation going on, and we're gonna get information from that, but I didn't feel the pull into the next issue as much as I have in previous issues.
I feel like episode 5 of like an 8 episode season, where it's like, all right,
Right in the middle.
yeah, we just got to get some exposition going on. It's not saying it's not good, but something is coming that we can see.
Yeah.
I really liked the first 3 pages that establish the relationship that Harry
Mm,
actually had with his dad. That was a question mark that this book answers. But this is issue 5 of 6 of the first arc. 2 of the first 6 issues have a fill-in artist. 2 of the first 6 issues do not focus on Peter, and I am getting tired of this.
mm.
This issue isn't bad. There's nothing like functionally wrong with it, but we're seeing the other side of the Shocker encounter from a few issues ago. We're seeing that Harry was there and he ends up punking out the Shocker, which I truly don't care about. I don't need 2 Shocker appearances in the first 6 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man. And all the legwork that Hickman has done as far as setting up really interesting things as far as like who's going to die, what is the sacrifice going to be that makes all this real and takes it out of the realm of just people playing costume. All that legwork, the stuff with Uncle Ben and Jonah, all that shit is like, where is it? Where are those characters? Where are Jonah and Ben and MJ and the kids? Come on, man. We just read an issue of Peter and the couples having drinks. This issue shows us Harry and Peter drinking again. How many times do we need to see the same fucking shit?
And drinking before the last issue. Like that flashback was what happened before the last issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, no, man, come on. And I disagree that this book was all gas for the first couple issues. This book has never been all gas. It's gassing out. Like something has to give. You cannot keep doing this. And I don't know if it's because of the fact that they had to bring in, fill-ins for 2 issues. But at this point in my life, if you can't do 6 issues straight of comics, then maybe you shouldn't be doing monthly comics. Sorry.
Dang.
6 issues straight, that's just one arc. You couldn't even do 5 out of 6. This isn't going to read great in trade because you got a different fucking artist. What are we doing?
I think the dialogue will, but
Sure.
the art.
I mean,
yeah,
and also I
can see
think
that.
this issue can also sit outside of. It could be placed in anywhere. You know,
But
like
that's not good either.
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying
Mm.
like it almost feels like, all right, where's that one I had written already? Can we get an artist that can do it quickly? Because somebody's either I don't know where the delay is in the Chichetto stuff. I don't know if that's his art or not getting like we don't know where the delineation of workload goes. But this does feel like an issue that could have been slid in anywhere. I think it brings up some really interesting bits, like the whole idea that um, is it Tony Stark? I'm forgetting which Stark it is, but the one who's gifting everyone the things they lost.
Yeah, that's Tony.
It's
Yeah.
Tony. Okay, and oh yeah, he's just younger in this world. That's what I'm thinking of. And the fact that there's a lot of those being given out now, and like those are starting to come in, so this world is starting to be quickly armed with superheroes. And the idea that Shocker was one of them that was gifted, but I guess the real Herman Schultz had a heart attack before he could even open the box, or that gave him a heart attack. So I like that. I like how this world is relatively. I mean, it's superhero world, but it's more normal than the 616. But now it's getting injected with all of this. You know, spider people, people with gauntlets that can shoot shit, Iron Man suits. So like there is a powder keg waiting to be exploded, and I like that. But
But I think why are we seeing that here?
that's where my butt is.
Yeah.
It's good. That could be anywhere. There's a whole Peter Parker of this all that we're not even addressing.
We didn't see him in this issue, right? So like, I mean, outside of the flashback, there wasn't forward progression there, and I think
For
to
him,
that
no,
point,
yeah.
for him, right? Yeah, and I think to that point, you could have intertwined those things, right? Oh, he's discovering it alongside us. Like that could have been the thing. Like here's my maybe it doesn't have to be expository, but it could be context for Harry, and at the same time you're learning this alongside him.
Yeah, I'm still intrigued by the fact that there are going to be some L's that get taken. This issue made me feel like Gwen's probably going to die, to set Harry over the edge, because clearly these two are going to be antagonists. Harry and Peter I don't see them staying friends
Mm.
after whatever goes down in the next issue. And, I'm with that, and that's cool. And that, I guess, necessitates that we see some of these things. But whatever happened to, just seeding stuff throughout? Why did we need an entire issue of this? The first 3 pages of this issue are great, and we need them. They're meaningful context.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other stuff is just like, whatever. Like, okay, that happened. I don't give a fuck about how Shocker got his gauntlet. I don't care that Harry took him down. I don't care how Harry found the Iron Man suits. I truly don't care about any of that. And I feel like you can show those things across the comics and not do it all in one issue, because all in one issue, it just annihilates the propulsion that this series had, and it really couldn't afford that after the last one. I gave it grace for the last one because I thought the dialogue was awesome, but we're doing it again. That's not cool to me.
Yeah. Jedi Ty says, I like this issue, but I think it would have worked better as an issue 7. Post first arc to provide context. Absolutely.
How would you guys feel if this was teased out in like, an added value kind of backup, like a mini story?
I think we're all anti-backup on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Go ahead.
Please.
I would have been fine with that because it's relevant. A lot of the time, backups are just irrelevant. This is key, bits. I don't think you needed to do a backup. I think you could just put some of this stuff across the other issues.
Yeah.
But anything other than a $4.99 issue that is pure flashback, when the meat of what we are here for is being sidelined still.
Still is the word, right? Like if we had gotten teased like a bigger propulsion in issue 4, that would reason for this, fine. But it feels like a stopgap.
But yeah, even still, that's an issue 7.
Sure. Yeah.
That a massive cliffhanger for issue 6 that necessitates this flashback, or forward, or this focus on Harry specifically. providing context to everything, I think would be interesting.
Hmm.
But we haven't spent enough time with the guy on the cover.
Yeah, I want to follow Peter's journey. I want to see him enjoying being Spider-Man. I want to see him with his kids and stuff. If this is about to get real in the next issue, if that's the idea that issue 6 is going to make all this real to everybody involved, have we actually spent enough time with Peter and family? I don't think so.
Well, my worry is that it getting real is just going to be Harry turning. Maybe we'll lose Gwen, and that'll cause Harry to turn, but that relationship between Harry and Peter will sever. And like, I'm not invested enough in that to care. That's not a good enough drop for me.
They just met.
Yeah.
They need to tease that Harry stuff out longer.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, back in May, April, 2 months. What?
These things that this book is playing off of, the echoes from 616, these character dynamics and stuff, I feel like it's relying too much on the fact that we already know who they are, but this is a new world. I truly don't give a damn about the relationship between Peter and Harry. It's non-existent. I don't care about Gwen. I don't care about Mary Jane. These are relationships that unfolded over the course of literal years. Human, real years, dozens of comic books. It wasn't microwaved to give you the resolution to a conflict over the course of 6 issues. That's just not how it unfolded in real time.
Even the bit where Harry's talking to Peter and he says, what did it feel like when you first put the costume on? And Peter's just like, oh, I knew I needed to be, like, it just clicked in me. It's like, all right, that seems like a shortcut. That, like, you just needed to be a hero, which I understand. I guess you kind of need shortcuts for what they're trying to do with the Ultimate Universe. But it's not like you didn't have the whole Ultimate Universe already before that.
The Messina art is definitely strong. I don't think that, like, I'm upset that Chichetto's not on this because that's what it was predicated on and sold on, that we would have Hickman and Chichetto on this, not just Hickman and Chichetto for a few issues. And Marvel really, really has to do a better job of this. They cannot keep letting this shit happen. But that being said, I think Messina's doing very serviceable work. I liked his Kingpin. He's this big like mountain man, which was cool. The explosion early on that shows the destruction of, the death of Norman and everybody else that died in that situation. That's all cool. I don't really feel though like there's much standout from a visual standpoint here because we've spent 2 issues straight just sort of talking. So what do we really even have to highlight from a visual standpoint?
I mean, I don't think anything innovative was done in this issue. Like we're getting standard panels, maybe 5 per page. Things are progressing easily. It's a very structured series of pages.
I was kind of bummed to see Norman not have the cornrows.
But I do want to praise the book a little bit. I know I talked about the opening 3 pages, but man, the way that Norman speaks to Harry, it's just like, if you've got a parent in your life or whatever who you really, really care about and you're seeking their approval, getting cut down like this, you can imagine how Harry must feel. And then to top it off, this is their very last conversation. Norman is now dead, and the last thing that he said to Harry was essentially, "You're a disappointment to me." This is directly from the book. So, quote, this is from Norman. "It's a great name. It means something. Harry, do you know what my favorite memory of you is?" Harry replies, "Yeah, that time we played catch." And Norman interrupts, "No, that's you, the little boy talking. And that memory, it's the memory of a child. My favorite memory of you is the day you finally started acting like a man, like an Osborn. The problem is, it hasn't happened yet. We're all waiting for you, Harry. How long are you going to make us wait? How much longer am I going to and then boom.
Yo, chill out, Tommy Lee Jones.
That's that's the kind of conversation that you see like your white friend's dad have in front, like in front of you. You know, I've seen that. I've been on that side of that.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Not a white friend, but I've seen it. It's harsh, and it makes me wish that Norman wasn't dead because I would like to see their relationship more than this. Um, but I don't know that we're gonna get swerved on that. I think he might just be gone for good.
In my eyes, if you don't see a body, that doesn't mean they're dead.
It clearly missed.
We'll see. Um, I I still say pull. The dialogue is good, the art is solid, but I just don't. This isn't the book for the deep world building. This is the book for Spider-Man. The building book, as far as I'm concerned, is Ultimates, and this should be a lot lower to the ground. And we just don't have all this time to waste. I know Hickman is probably on this for like 12 issues, and then he's going to be gone. And two of those issues have been, I don't want to say wasted because that's a little bit much, but they just haven't been utilized to the maximum.
I don't know that this isn't the book for world building as much as it shouldn't be meandering. Like I like the things that get brought up here and get fleshed out, and if that gets explored elsewhere, cool. Then that helps to tie the books in together. But it needs to be more direct in point A to point B because I don't know where ultimately it's leading to.
Like, there's no real. I mean, outside of the Kingpin, there's no real conflict that's coming to a head. Like, the final issue of the arc is next week, and I guess it's going to be Kingpin that they face off against. Like, I mean, that's on the cover, so I would assume so, but these covers have not been the most trustworthy so far. But it's kind of a quiet way to start this whole run. And I don't want to say I don't like it, because I do like it. Like, this is a pull for me still. But it's not what I expected.
Yeah, pull. I'm certainly willing to give Hickman, an arc. Happily give him an arc, but after issue 6, like I'll probably wait out the trade.
Pull. I've been having fun. I want more Hickman. I think this was a weaker issue in comparison to the stuff that I've been getting. I've loved every issue so far, and I think he just needs to get back onto a better rhythm, and I think that'll happen next issue when we're not talking about the past.
Set some comments. You guys are active in the chat. I'd love to see that. Very interested in discussing Ultimate Spider-Man. Hopefully you feel that way about the rest of the books on the docket. Let's see. Joe says, if Peach can write and be the artist and covers for the first arc, then there isn't anything that will convince me that this arc should be, I assume you mean anything other than flawless and consistent. I mean, hey, I don't disagree. Peach Momoko is doing a ton of work over in her neck of the woods. We haven't had to fill in anything. I'm kind of, truthfully, tired of this. And if you can't do the monthly grind, why are you working in monthly comics? That's just how I feel.
I don't think anyone's really solved the problem of monthly comics. I mean, it's that or the occasional trade, but that's not consistent work. So it's tricky.
You can't even do 6 issues in a row?
Well, I can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
I probably could, but it wouldn't be good.
And it comes down to like the scheduling of it, right? Like if you know that this is a thing that's happening, like obviously they have this written out. Surely Hickman has all of this planned out, so schedule it better, time it better.
Like Ultimate Invasion was last year, right? It started in June, I believe, of last year, June or July. So we're almost a year, and like we knew this was coming. Like, at least Marvel knew this was coming. So, working with enough headway to be able to at least get a full team on your first arc seems like a no-brainer.
October.
It's happening
Okay.
everywhere else. It's happening everywhere else. Like, I'm not giving excuses. It's 6 issues. We're 5 deep, and 2 of them have not been drawn by the main artist. That's crazy. That shouldn't be acceptable.
I have one here from Philosopher.
Sorry, Marco, quickly. Can I add to that? I don't know that I blame Chichetto for that, at least blindly. I'm very happy laying the blame on Marvel for that. You know, 6 issues is hard work, and especially at Chichetto's detail level. Like we've said, we knew about this a year ago, but Chichetto also just came off of Daredevil, which is another, beast of a book. So I don't know.
Was that consistent?
Yeah, I think so.
No, because we already know that Chip Zdarsky was having to draw for multiple artists at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, what was the event book he did?
Devil's Reign.
Devil's Reign. That was all him. He at least did that, right?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Trying to find patterns here.
James Jones, Sean, please don't curse it. Hickman will be on for 50 issues. Believe? No, I do not believe.
Is that copium? Is that what they call it? Copium?
Let's get into the first arc of an Ultimate series that is resolving. The first chapter of one of these stories. The Ultimate Spider-Man number 6, written by Jonathan Hickman. Marco Chichetto back on art to close out this first arc. Letters by Corey Pettit. Colors by Matthew Wilson. So, we all came into this expecting a huge, battle that would see, some real heavy consequences that might teach Peter a lesson about heroism. Maybe there would be a cost involved on his part, maybe a cost involved on Harry's part. We thought someone was biting the dust. Marvel's been asking us who will bite it going into Blood Hunt. I'm not even care who bites it in Blood Hunt. I'm thinking about who's going to bite it in issue 6 of Ultimate Spider-Man. Well, we were all wrong. All of our guesses were wrong because nobody bought it. I mean, people bought the book, but nobody bit the dust. Yeah, there was a big battle. Kingpin versus the Green Goblin and Spider-Man. And it was good. But if you came in here expecting some major revelation, you were wrong.
What was it? A big battle? One window was broken and a desk was thrown.
Cage match.
Call it whatever you want. They had a fight. It was cool. I liked it. Took up the bulk of the issue.
It took up the bulk of the issue, but it didn't feel like it had a lot of gravity to it. It felt very... It felt like a casual just fight night. Like, we had this build-up and this lead-up, and it... I don't know. It wasn't climactic. It climactic in plot only.
My issue with this is that what's Peter's motivation for any of this? Peter's motivation is to be a superhero. But the real plot driving it is Harry's motivation, and he's just dragging Peter along for it. Harry wants to, his dad was taken from him. He wants to know who was giving out these powers to people, or where they've been taken from, or who took them from people. And he's stringing Peter along, but Peter isn't really an active he is an active participant, but is he really doing anything for himself? Like, I don't know. I feel weird about this book. I think it looks gorgeous. The Chichetto art is great. Kingpin with tattoos goes hard, but Man, this did nothing for me, honestly. Even the reveal at the end, I was like, "Oh, that was how you did it? Okay, fine. Get it out of the way, I guess." Um, yeah, I don't think I liked this as I'm talking about it.
Yeah, I definitely each subsequent issue has kind of been feeling a little cooler in terms of that initial, spark. And I think I didn't like that we started out with he comes back in, he's beat up. It felt like another day at the office, but this is his first time doing it, and that didn't continue to translate. Like he did, this momentous his first, this first real heavy hitter, right? You've hit the boss, and it didn't feel like that.
This felt more like the first. I mean, I guess to a degree it was, but this felt like the first meeting of Spider-Man and Kingpin, which should have happened in like issue 2. Like this did not have issue 6 heat that it needed. And the overall conflict here being that Peter has to involve his family and that his hand is shown. I mean, has no consequence. I mean, so far, but like even within the family, like there's no consequence.
MJ just got a little horny. Like that's that's the real consequence of it. Which, good for him. But it didn't feel authentic to me.
Because I think it felt like there's been this worry that the other shoe is going to drop, and that feels like it's been lingering, and then it doesn't. And maybe he's toying. Maybe we're getting our expectations up high, or maybe he's toying with those expectations. But if that's the case, that doesn't feel narratively. That doesn't feel like sequential narration, especially when you're building this emotion.
So I'll say this. I personally think that if we're evaluating this book as a whole, then these 6 issues are unsuccessful. Because I don't believe that as a 6-issue story, this really feels that satisfying. I'm not fully sure whose story it is. You have the 2 issues that Marco Cicchetto's not even doing the art for, and it's just a lot of, sitting around talking. Uncle Ben and Jameson have been ghosts. That whole subplot got essentially dropped, and the tension that Hickman was doing such a good job of building towards isn't paid off within the first 6 issues. And of course, as comic book readers of such a long time, particularly of the big 2, we're trained to think in 6-issue chunks. So if we're talking about this series in a 6-issue chunk, this 6-issue chunk is unsuccessful to me. That being said, I enjoyed this issue for the most part. I really liked the fight. I thought Kingpin came across as badass. I like the fact that he had no help. He already knew they were coming, and he did not care to seek any help. He just was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna beat the shit out of these guys, and I'm gonna have fun with that." And I enjoyed that. I was a little bit surprised that they just leave, like they just leave and the fight ends. I thought that was pretty kind of like lame.
It,
And the way that Peter sort of gets his secret exposed by his daughter was just lame. Like that,
Yeah.
like I feel like yes, that could definitely happen, but the way that it happens just feels like, yeah, we got to do this. So
Yeah.
I also don't think the month time jumps helps this book. Because it means a lot of stuff happens in between the issues, and we never actually get to see it.
Or it means it very much doesn't.
Yeah, it means nothing's happening. Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with it. Go ahead, Marco.
No, I was gonna. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't think it hampers anything. I think Kale makes a good point that nothing happens in between, and maybe that's something more considerable. Like you should be having little mini arcs in between. Like what is a typical day of him saving the day, or say stopping a robber, that kind of thing. Like those are the things where you build up the credentials to even be able to lead up to a kingpin. But if that's not happening in between during the week, like is he just he's just working his 9 to 5?
I mean, no, you obviously have to fill in the margins in your own mind. Like the likelihood is that he is doing things as Spider-Man throughout the month. We just don't need to see that. We don't actually need to see him beating up robbers. We know what that's like.
Yeah, we saw it. He got his ass kicked.
But yeah, I mean, the book, I just sort of feel like it lost a lot of its propulsion with those two prior issues. And then this one tries to recapture the way we were feeling, but it just doesn't. I don't think that works. And like I said, I like the issue. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we get the actual series artist back. I just, as an anecdote, I just caught up with Daredevil, like Chip's whole run. And the amount of times that Marco Cicchetto was not on that book when he was the main series artist was staggering. And I kind of went hard last time we reviewed Ultimate Spider-Man about that subject. And I'm sort of feeling the same way now that I just read an entire book that he was supposed to be the main artist on and was barely a part of. It's a shame because he is super, super talented, but I just think this book in particular, more than Daredevil actually, is hampered by Marco not being there, because it's also clear to me that Hickman wasn't bothered trying to further the plot in the issues in which his main artist was not present.
Yeah.
I just don't see a world where we needed to wait 2 issues to get to this.
Yeah, there's nothing like it's a big action sequence, sure, but it doesn't feel revolutionary. We're getting pretty simple panels, cool explosions. I do like when he's kind of like towering over Spider-Man in that one scene. He's kind of cornered. Cool moments, but I think to warrant being gone for 2 issues, I'd much rather there. And you guys let me know how you feel, but I'd much rather there have been maybe a delay so I can have had him throughout the book.
They can't delay it though. That's the thing, because each issue is a month. Like we're in June in the book.
They should have gotten a different artist.
I mean, that might be if you have to stick to that shtick, and that's the shtick across all the X-Men books, from what I understand. Ultimate books. Then you need somebody that can do it month to month. Yeah.
Not to mention that this book is a hot book. You don't want to be delaying books that are selling well. And, if you're going to get a series artist that can't do it month to month and you can't delay it because you need that money coming in, then you've just got to find an artist who can do this schedule. It's not fair.
I think he's too busy drawing more variants to the reprints of the first issue. I saw like another 4 this week.
Well, and it's also like he Marvel very clearly knew, planned for what we talked about, right? We think in 6-issue chunks. Okay, we got to get 1, we got to get 2, and we have to get 6. And that'll keep us afloat. That'll be the important stuff. It's just like, Cicchetto's great. He's phenomenal. I would rather have, all due respect to artists, but I would rather have an artist of a lesser quality than Cicchetto for a more consistent look, a more consistent story.
Dude, on the other hand, look at his fucking MJ. Like, oh my God.
Anybody can draw a hot girl, though. Like,
whoa.
I just yeah, but
I'm on your side. I was trying to talk about the fact that the dude's art is phenomenal.
Sure.
I've been banging, dude. I was banging the drum last time, and you told me to pump the brakes.
Hey, and you're right. Yeah,
I know. That's why I said it.
On
But
is.
but the thing is that when he's on the book, it's damn good. So I feel like they need to figure out something. Maybe, maybe it's gonna be 2 arcs and out, and I would be cool with that. Because
I don't even want 2 arcs. I could
Well,
be done with Chichetto here.
frankly, I agree with that too. I'd kind of rather they just find someone else to do the job on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Or an artist per arc. If they need to, if Hickman needs to write, issues, 12, 13, 4, like those for Chichetto, and somebody else can do the ones up until 12.
ASM's doing something like that, aren't they?
Yeah. Or
kind of anyway.
Or somebody that's more complimentary to Chichetto. I feel like, who was it before? It was
I forget.
I forget. I forget. It was Michelle Bandini. I don't know why that name's jumping out to me.
That's the one that came out to me too, but I don't think that's who it was. That's because that's Batman this week, I think. Is it?
Unless it's the same guy.
That's Bandini this week on Batman. That's what
okay. I can easily look this up as
guy.
well. But like the art for the person who was in the previous issues was not complimentary to Chichetto. Like it didn't feel like the same vibe.
Right.
But Chichetto is so good. How do you get someone to do the same vibe as Chichetto?
Messina, David Messina.
Okay. Some other Italian name. Got it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think the dialogue is still crisp, but I need this book to do more. I just think it's kind of sort of coasting a little bit. And it seems like we're about to get into like the Ultimate Sinister Six, and that seems super random. And I really need Hickman to drop a bomb. I thought this was going to be the issue that turns everything on its head and really drives the plot forward, but it just isn't the case. I still had fun with this issue, but this is not what I thought I was going to be getting.
I don't know about even the scripting. I mean, once he comes back home, and he's like, and that's the story of how your dad got his butt kicked. And then I didn't feel like the interactions with the kids felt genuine. I mean, whatever. Isn't that against the law? Sure. Oh, Dad, I didn't tell you for like 4 whole months. The one where he turns around, he's like, Dad, yeah, please be careful. Like some of this felt just. I can see them trying to build the emotional connection, but it didn't come across as, oh my God, he's so concerned over his father. This isn't the first thing he might think of. And then MJ's just reaction. I don't know, man. Like that her being impressed and not being worried, knowing that she's a parent, knowing that she has to deal with the kids.
Dude,
I don't have kids. My wife would be furious if I became a superhero.
Yeah. There's multiple reasons why MJ should be mad.
She would be my arch nemesis if I became a superhero.
And
Red Goblin.
The first issue started with them being so communicative. Like, hey, I have something to tell you later, right? That totally disrupted that trust.
Yeah, where's the drama at?
Right.
What the fuck happened?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This book has no drama.
This Kingpin stuff is like fine. It's an issue to, meet cute between Spider-Man and Kingpin, fine. But like this whole series has hinged on the family drama, and there's no family fucking drama.
Harry has the drama. Peter has none. There is none.
Hold on, because this is the book. This comic book is the comic book that every fucking body said that they needed. A book where Peter Parker and MJ are together and have kids, right? Yeah. And so Marvel is giving you what you wanted, but what are we getting? We are getting a book with no drama. No drama.
And I think this is where the monthly thing is an issue, because you kind of need to wrap up what you're telling in that month. There's no real cliffhanger that you can do to the next issue because there's going to be a month of nothing happening off screen.
Why not? You could just as easily say that Peter and MJ are in a bad place next month.
Yep.
Sure. But I think the issues are too preoccupied with wrapping it up within their issues.
But you don't have to be. That's
I agree. Choice. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, but even then, right? This could have been the big bad fight, whatever, right? And then the end would have been, oops, now you know that I'm Spider-Man. Tune in next time to see how we get out of this pickle and MJ's mad and shit.
Easy fix. Ultimate Paul.
Damn.
Ultimate. I was gonna say ultimate pass for the joke, but I don't feel that way. But
I
yeah,
do.
you're passing.
Yeah.
Really?
I think
This,
I am
this
too, honestly.
did nothing for me. This is hitting all the same notes of a Spider-Man book, but worse somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even the fight scene barely had any Spider-Man stuff happening in it. It was just punching.
He got like one quip in.
Yeah, and the family dialogue, I was like, young Sheldon's done better. Like,
Damn.
more believable work. I don't know. I don't know how to say it feels phoned in, but it feels a little phoned in. Like, I know Hickman could do better. I've read Hickman's Fantastic Four. He knows how to write family dialogue.
The back half of this,
It's not here. It just doesn't exist here.
I'm not gonna pass just yet. I think I'm still hopeful that we're gonna get more. We're gonna get an upswing because the first two issues are just so hot. The third one, it started to dip, but I'm excited to see that upswing again.
How many are you gonna give it?
I'll give it another arc.
That many? 1 was hot, 2 is okay, 3 and 4 we're fine, and now we're on 6. And the cliffhanger for the first arc was they go swinging in classic in the classic Spider-Man costume, in the classic Spider-Man pose with MJ on his back in the classic, in the classic Spider-Man and MJ swing. Why is this an Ultimate book? Put it back in Amazing.
Oh, are we going back to read Amazing?
This is nothing.
Sean, we switching back or what?
I switch back. I read Amazing. I love it. This week's issue was awesome.
Oh, I haven't read it this week. It's still Ed McGuinness, right?
Mm-hmm. Todd Knock.
Oh, either way, that's still good. Yeah.
Can't knock. I wonder if anybody's made that joke.
Oh, I'm pulling. There's only been one issue of this series that I didn't like, and that was 5. Every other issue I thought was at least good. This one, I don't. It's solid, but I do agree that the cracks are definitely showing, and there is a little bit of a hollowness here that you would not expect from Hickman. And so I really hope that this can start to generate some more heat here in the coming issues. But I would not drop this title. It would have to be significantly worse than this for me to drop it.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's still Spider-Man. I don't know. I can't drop this. At least until Hickman is gone.
I think that's my issue. It's still Spider-Man. Like, it's just
it's called
still
Ultimate Spider-Man. What do you want?
I mean, like, it's nothing different, really. Like, I'm with Cale on this one, though.
All right, well, let's see what the audience thinks. You guys have been popping off. Jeez.
AC Joe, I'm getting right in there. AC Joe says, as I agree with some of what y'all are saying, but this is what I want for Peter Parker. There's a lot of other Spider-Man stories that show sad, depressing stuff to Peter. This is a fanfare book.
I'm cool with the family being, Peter gets into a fight with Kingpin, and he comes home, and the family still gets a joke about it. Like, Peter's happy. But there can still be conflict and be lighthearted at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's where my issue is. Because I'm with you. In theory, that sounds great to me. In practice, there's nothing pulling me on this book.
That's just not how stories work. You cannot have a guy walk into his family house and have his wife learn for the first time ever that he's a superhero in a world where that is not cool, where superheroes are not cool, and just everybody go, "Oh, that's okay, Dad. You'll be all right." And then her go, "Yeah, I'm horny now." That's not how stories work. Sorry.
Remember, superheroes are terrorists in this.
Yeah.
In this universe right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. and there's no precedent. There are the only superheroes they have are bad in the minds of the public. A building just blew up because of Iron Man.
Do superheroes exist in media in this world? Like, does the
Why
Incredibles
would they
exist?
have?
I don't know. Like,
Well, that's the zombie question you're getting into.
Like I get it, Joe, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it, but that is the problem for me is that as a story, it doesn't feel right. I don't feel like that moment at the end of the book is earned because everything that I just saw, the 5 previous issues told me this guy's going to pay a price for concealing this secret and for taking this on without consulting his family. And this ending snatches that emotional weight from the book. So what do I care about?
And Andrew Smith has a great alternate construction here. I feel like the reveal should have been different than May letting it slip, but that should have been the cliffhanger. To recap the drama, you could always start 7 with Peter and MJ in couples council. I think it's great.
I agree.
Yeah. Agreed. John Horschler making a great point. 11 likes out of 37. Let's get those likes up. We've got nearly 40 people here on a Thursday night. If you're enjoying the conversation so far, smash that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed to our channel if you enjoy the Comics Pals. I wanted to shout out Alan Rajesh, whose name I have not seen before in the chat, that says, of course, this is why I wouldn't have. This is my first time on the live show, but I'm an avid listener. I've been listening to your podcast for about a year now on Spotify, but since I live in the United Arab Emirates, it's usually super late for me. Well, thank you for making it. Despite that fact, I appreciate you so much for being a longtime listener of ours. A year is quite a while to dedicate yourself to a podcast, so thank you for that. Appreciate you.
Believe us, we know.
Yeah, we got a few years on that. What else we got? Any other interesting comments? Yeah, Alan says most issues, the tension just fizzles out, and I completely agree with that. And that's something that Hickman has to solve, and I'm surprised by it. I don't understand that.